American National Museum celebrates 20 years all through the theme Al-Bayt Baytak. This home is your home. I hope this year and every year you feel welcome walking through the doors of the museum, whether it is your first or your 30th time here. Similarly, literature invites us warmly into the home of another, and tonight we are gathered to honor the power of storytelling and the writers who share, uplift, and preserve our community's narratives. Before we begin tonight's program, I'd like to ask you to join me in a moment of silence to pay respect to all our martyrs and victims of the ongoing genocide and the ongoing famine in both Palestine and Sudan. Please take a moment to honor and remember all the lives lost and displaced across our beloved homelands in Palestine, Sudan, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and beyond. I'd also like to ground us with an acknowledgement that the Arab American National Museum sits on the colonized and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe peoples, known as the Three Fires Confederacy, and the Wyandot people. I'd like to acknowledge that our neighboring city, Detroit, is also Anishinaabe territory and is the largest majority Black city in the nation with a long legacy of African diasporic contributions. We at the Arab American National Museum confirm that we are actively cultivating partnerships with the indigenous and diasporic communities within and around the museum to uplift, honor, and learn from them. Every year, winners are selected by committees of judges, which includes scholars, educators, and authors, several of whom are in the audience tonight. If you are a judge this year, could you please stand, and could we have the lights on just for a second, please? Can we please give them a round of applause? Thank you. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to the Arab American Book Awards. I say this to them when I get to see them in person. They have the hardest job because they have to go through all of the books that come to my desk and make a selection, and it's very difficult. So thank you. I'd also like to highlight two of our awards tonight who are named in honor of our great supporter, George Allen Bogan, and his late partner, Evelyn Shacker. Additionally, our Lifetime Achievement Award, the last award of the night, is named in honor of Dr. Anan, Ameri, who has been a supporter of the Arab American Book Award since its inception, and who is in attendance with us tonight. Thank you, Dr. Anan, for your support. The first award presentation tonight is the winners of this year's Evelyn Shacker Nonfiction Award, an honor that goes to scholarly and creative works that successfully weave stories of our community with the realities we live in. Tonight, we begin with the Nonfiction Academic Award. Revolution Squared is a breathtakingly thorough account of the Egyptian Revolution, what was and remains a phenomenon still only vaguely understood in much of the world. 13 years on, Said's study breathes fresh life into the possibility for academic engagement with this moment, offering a theoretically and methodologically sophisticated analysis grounded in exhaustive empirical evidence. It brilliantly folds the unremitting fulsomeness of the revolutionary moment into its analytical frame, demonstrating how and why revolutions rise and fall, emphasizing how eruptions of grassroots dissent are shaped as much by what does not happen as by what does. In tracing how the individual sense of purpose interacts with the collective, redefining social and political convention in the work of revolution, Revolution Squared delivers an evocative and necessary corrective. It challenges both the patronizing liberal teleologies of democratic awakening that hounded revolutionaries after January 25th. And in its serious ambitions and scope confronts too far frequently derivative scholarship in the American Academy. In a global moment of blatant authoritarianism, if not fascism, Said's work is a triumph we would do well to read carefully, an urgent reminder of how the unrealized possibilities of the past continue to shape the struggles of the present. and the prospects for future transformation. Please welcome Dr. Atif Said to the stage.
Sorry. Sorry, because I'm in the first in order, so it was all confusing, but I'm glad, thanks to Rima for the instructions. Only say a couple words. Yes. I'm starting with a quote by a friend. This is better? Okay. This? Okay. A quote by a friend. The French Revolution failed 3 times instead of once. The Bolshevik revolutions eventually failed because of its own mistakes, ending with a counter-revolution in the hands of Stalin. The German Revolution failed, and its leadership was killed by the counter-revolution, which resulted in the rise of Nazis. Perhaps the similarities cannot be missed. The reference here to the Egyptian military regime in the aftermath of the coup 2013. Popular revolutions fail a lot more than they succeed, but they remain the main engine of human history. The important thing is learning. I am on the verge of 70 years of age. I know that I will not live a successful revolution, but I'm confident that it will come, not in Egypt alone, but in the whole world. I'm not saying this as a result of the belief in some historical determinism, but based on the deep conviction that the inherent desire of the human soul for freedom and justice is impossible to erase. The victory is ours, end quote. Late journalist and comrade Hani Shukrallah wrote these words as a Facebook post on June 30th, 2018, a couple months before he passed away. The idea that we have to continue to believe in humanity and the inherent desire of human soul for freedom and justice have been staying with me for a long time. Even and despite the complex and some of the dreadful outcomes of the Arab Spring uprisings in 2011 and beyond. When I wrote Revolution Squared, I had 2 goals in mind. The first is to argue against much of the Orientalist, racist analysis about the Arab Spring by many Western scholars, and their claims such as that we have no agency, this uprising was doomed to fail, we love oppression, and we can't be free, and we don't have any genuine desire for democracy or justice, nor genuine desire or persistence to fight for both of them. The second goal was to present an eyewitness account and a very rigorous and thick analysis about the Arab Revolutionary Agency, their dreams, their struggles, their confusion, their aspirations, their reflections. I did not envision receiving awards, especially professional academic awards. Many of them were given to gatekeepers and dominant analyses and more. But to receive an award from the Arab American National Museum is very different. It means a lot to me when the recognition comes from my own people and writing to correct analysis about my own people. I'm honored and humbled to receive the Evelyn Shaker Award. Speaking of which, many people here would agree that the liberation of our people is entangled. It's no coincidence that the key regimes that slaughtered the Arab Spring are the ones who are complicit in atrocities against our own people in Palestine. I truly believe that Palestine will be free. Our people will be free by our own hands. We have to continue the fight through analysis, through work, through sticking together and working with allies who believe in humanity and justice for all. Free Palestine and free Arab world from dictatorship and imperialism. Thank you.
The second Evelyn Shakir Nonfiction Award for Creative the second Evelyn Shakir Nonfiction Creative Award goes to Naam Kiam for the work The Land is Holy. The judges said, "The Land is Holy is a beautifully crafted book, layered, authentic, and vital. The structure of the book is refreshingly original, composed of modular essays of varying lengths, which explore their personal, political, and familial history through meditations on the living, non-human world. Birds, animals, and herbs serve as a roadmap for the author's meditations on what homeland means when it is unfixed from place. Never oversimplistic, fiercely honest, and generatively open-ended, this book is an act of both reckoning and hope. It also dares to both reclaim Jewish Arab identity while taking responsibility for the way this identity has been instrumentalized and or erased in the service of Zionism. In documenting the dark history and realities of the Zionist settler state through the role Kiam's own family had in its formation, Kiam states, "My blood is trying to tell me something. We are grateful the author did the work of listening, of telling. At this time when a horrific and unrelenting genocide is being committed in Gaza, The Land is Holy is the embodiment of courageous and unflinching solidarity with Palestine." Please welcome Naam Kiam to the stage.
Hi, everyone. I promised myself I wouldn't cry, and, well, that happened. Thank you for those words about my book. My name's Noam. I was born a settler of occupied Palestine. And being in Michigan is very emotional for me because this is the first place when I moved from France. I came to Ann Arbor on a J-1 visa 13 years ago. And next week, I'm doing my citizenship interview to become an American citizen, which I have feelings about. And I'm just coming back from 2 months in Morocco. I wrote this book because I was born into Zionism, and my grandparents were Moroccan Jews from Marrakech who completely denied their Arab identity. But I grew up in France, where my Arabness was reflected to me constantly in the racism of the society. And I was very confused about it, but I was barred from exploring my Arabness. And so the book was an attempt at reconnecting to lineage that predates Zionism and the lies of Zionism, while also acknowledging my responsibility in the destruction of a land that is not mine and not my people's. And the book has changed my life in so many ways, and part of it is that it has reconnected me with Morocco and with my lineage, with my love, Ayoub, and all the people that I have built right relationship with in Morocco. But I thought that I would read a quick passage of the book that predates my relationship with Morocco, because the book was written in 2021, 2022. So it's from an essay called The Oudads. When I think about home, I think about Marrakech, a place I've only been to once as part of an ill-planned family vacation with my parents and younger sibling in 1999. I don't think about my current house to which I own a deed, the many apartments I rented over the years, or the one I was raised in. When I think about Marrakech, I don't think about the terrible all-inclusive hotel we stayed in or the scams my parents kept falling for. I don't think about The shame I felt walking with them, crude and isolated from every other family in the hotel who was having a good time, while we ate our dinners in silence. I think about the mellach of my grandparents' childhood, a place that only lives in the memory of the dead. Savta Zohara and Saba Eliyahu told me and the rest of the family that their love story started in childhood. They told us that they had to leave so that they could be together. And that was the reason why they left Morocco in the late 40s. The love alone was meant to explain leaving families behind, transiting through Marseille and a refugee camp in the Zionist state. Their love alone explained a life built on the desert that was home to other people, away from the imperial city of their childhood and the grave of their beloved ancestors. Saba Zohara and Saba Eliyahu are both dead now, and my mother and my father might as well be. So all that is left for me is genealogy websites, history books, psychics, and my imagination. It isn't much, but it is the way I try to tell myself the story of a home abandoned. It is the way I get to explain the tears that come up when I hear Arabic, the comfort of sand under my bare feet and my affinity for mint, rue, rosemary, rose, and wormwood. I know that Safta Zohara and Saba Eliyahu flattened their story to make it palatable. I know that they were both part of a moment in history when Arab Jews were manipulated to leave their homelands to populate the lower echelons of the Zionist state and justify the rejection of Arabness as a whole. I know that because the story of migration is the story of thousands of people. The books and websites have taught me. I learned about the history of the Mellach in my home on Turtle Island, in one of the largest cities of the largest settler colonial state in human history. Amongst the knickknacks accumulated over the years, I learned about my ancestors' homes in books written in English by people who have built their careers telling the stories of people who are not theirs. I spent a lot of time in my home thinking about ancestors and ancestral lands. Like everybody in my lineage, I'm haunted by the dead. I'm haunted by a need to make sense of my own place in the world from the fragmented remains left by the forced movement of my elders. When I think about home in the mellach of my ancestors, I conveniently edit the generation that colonized Palestine. I edit it because in this story, I want to place myself on a land that was ours. I want to place myself as part of a lineage of belonging. I edit it because when I think about home, I do sometimes think about the desert I was born in, but that's a complicated story that me and my body need to reckon with in other settings. When I think about home, I don't want you to think that I believe Palestine to be my home. I need you to know that Palestine should be free, from the river to the sea, without me in it. I want you to know that all our freedoms depend on it, because there isn't a home for anybody without a free Palestine. Thank you.
Next, let's celebrate our honorable mention in the nonfiction category, A War of Colors, Graffiti and Street Art in Post-War Beirut. I would like to welcome Dr. Naidan Sinno to the stage.
Thank you so much. So a little bit of background. I was born and raised in Lebanon during the Lebanese Civil War. I left to the US in 2001 and been going there every year because my heart is still there, obviously. Like many Beirutis of my generation, my visual memories of Beirut streets are dominated by pockmarked walls, crumbling buildings, posters of political leaders, both dead and alive, and logos of various militias. So in my mind's eye, I always believed that the streets belonged to militias, thugs, and shabab, or young men, who served as vigilantes in their respective neighborhoods. The rest of us hurriedly walked through the hazardous, dirty streets to get from one place to another. And even after the war ended, militia stencils and dehumanizing sectarian graffiti continued to monopolize the cityscape, reminding us of the precariousness of peace and coexistence in Beirut. But as the years passed by, a new phenomenon seemed to be at work. Around the mid-2000s, I started noticing that I would see unprecedented types of of graffiti, pictures of Fayrouz, pictures of the Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish, anti-war stencils, aggressive anti-government stencils too, but also dictates for a better society. And I started developing a much better relationship with my streets. I wanted to find out, what am I going to find on the next corner? So I walked the streets for about 8 years or more so with my amazing husband, who's here with us today, with a camera, and we took pictures of every single scratch and scroll and beautiful mural and ugly slogans, and I learned a lot. Very quickly, I'll just read you from the conclusion, if that's okay, and I want to start with a quote by Naji Bakhti, author of Between Beirut and the Moon, and he says, "To be Lebanese today is to take small steps home with one hand on your heart and another firmly planted against the wall. It is to pay the heavy price of living and being and not cower under the weight of it all. It is to learn from time hollow wisdom and from space scathing cynicism. It is to reinvent hope. It is to reinvent hope when you know you have to reinvent it again tomorrow." So Beirut streets continue to be written and rewritten with stories that are sad at times and hopeful at others, continuously evolving in defiance of aesthetic and political stagnation. And I will mention here that I end the book with this. I want to end with one more graffito, 2 walls captioned by the expression قبل ما أموت بدي لبنان, and the English translation, "Before I die, I want Lebanon too," inviting pedestrians to just pause and add whatever they imagine for a future Lebanon. And this hopeful, somber walls present for me a suitable example of the finalizability of graffiti, but also of people's aspirations. The constantly expanding multilingual phrases included on the walls document the small and big dreams of residents regarding their country's future. The responses to "Before I die, I want Lebanon to" include the following: be one Lebanon, have a decent soccer team, be the land of the future, be a country, not a zoo, fight back, be more stable, become a green country, and be free. At the risk of sounding sentimental, this graffito moved me to tears as I stood under the decrepit Fuad Shahab Bridge on the outskirts of downtown Beirut, reading the handwritten messages of fellow Lebanese who cared and dared to stop, to share their thoughts and emotions, and to reinvent hope in seriousness and in jest. I hope this book invites the reader to think about, to think through, and to think beyond graffiti and street art in profound and playful ways too. In other words, this is a book about graffiti and street art, but it is also a book about civic engagement, protest, suffering, placemaking, joy, and resistance through other means. Ultimately, it is a book about average civilians longing for communication and communion and seeking them through the act of graffiti making. Thank you so much.
The second award tonight is for our fiction category. Tonight we honor We Walked On by Tariz Sokkar Shihadi. We Walked On is a beautifully written novel set during the Lebanese Civil War. The narrative perspective is split between 2 characters, Hisham, an Arabic teacher at a Catholic girls' high school, and one of his students, Rita. Shihadi grounds us immediately in 1970s Lebanon, immersing us in time and place with details that are uncannily accurate and tangible. Although the novel takes place during a developing civil war, it is suffused with a charm and whimsy that gives its readers respite from the grim realities of violence and conflict. Themes of storytelling also factor into this balance, providing both a poignant mirror and an escape by which the protagonist can reflect on the realities of war, while also envisioning a narrative beyond it. In addition, Shihadi portrays with remarkable sensitivity the slow factionalization of the diverse populations these protagonists are a part of. As part of this depiction, she illustrates the continuous and heartbreaking fissures developing between neighborhoods and families. With lucid and richly textured prose, Tariz weaves a narrative that manages to be both devastating and hopeful. We Walked On does not just depict the indelible marks of trauma left on survivors, it also highlights the incredible perseverance that allows them to walk on and beyond that tragedy. Please welcome Therese to the stage.
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this. The light is. I am really honored, and I have goosebumps all over, so I can't promise that I will not be crying tonight, even during this short speech. Just Nadine, when you said قبل ما أموت بدي لبنان, before I die I want Lebanon, and for me it just stopped there, بدي لبنان. So what's it like for ordinary people to live through war? In We Walked On, I set out to explore this question through the eyes of 14-year-old Rita and her Arabic teacher Hisham as they navigate the early days of the Civil War. I wanted to show how people survive, how memory and imagination become lifelines. One reaching back to a time before the war, the other allowing us to dream of other worlds when the present one is falling apart. As a young teenager, I lived through the Lebanese Civil War. Years later, having already spent a long time in the US, I began writing We Walked On, thinking I was simply telling a story from the past, a shared history of a small country caught between larger powers and internal strife. Yet Lebanon never truly left me. It stayed tucked away in my memory, where war and peace lived side by side, quietly asking to be put into words. When the idea for the book first came to me, I imagined a caravan of people leaving their homes, carrying what they could. In my mind, these figures flickered into absence, leaving behind the lives they had once inhabited. Then 2 years ago, the horrors I had worked so hard to document returned with a vengeance. The pages of We Walked On, finalized and ready for publication, gained a haunting new resonance as the attacks on Gaza and shortly after on Lebanon erupted with terrifying violence. Early on, those of us who know Israel understood that this new chapter in the long, recurring story of Palestine would be more brutal and mortal than anything we had witnessed before. The stories of Palestine and Lebanon are intertwined. Of the two, Palestine has paid by far the heavier price, but its story is inseparable from Lebanon's. Lebanon's civil war from 1975 to 1990 was another chapter in a long-standing global power struggle, a relentless effort to keep the region under colonial influence. In my novel, Hisham writes short fictionalized stories to understand what drives the killings. But the streets of Beirut, strewn with the dead, cry out that all meaning has been lost. I think of the dead. So many, they seem to outnumber the living. They press themselves to us, quietly asking to be remembered. There's a compulsion among us, the living, to give voice to those who have been cast aside and can no longer speak, and to honor their memory with a hard work of remembrance. The killing sprees continue in Palestine and Lebanon, where long-standing divisions are being stoked to ignite another civil war. Yet today, I feel a cautious hope. The forces trying to crush the impulse for self-determination now face growing resistance from the words we use to expose lies and the unshakable courage of Palestinians and Lebanese who stand in defiance, demanding the freedom and dignity they deserve. And in Lebanon, despite our divisions, more Lebanese than ever now recognize that for Lebanon to be truly free, Palestine must also be free. Finally, I leave you with a short paragraph from one of Hisham's vignettes, written in a rare moment of hope, even as Beirut lies in rubble around him. You will rise from the terrible wreckage. War cannot break the dance of life, which has no bounds. You will be in the flicker of light and the sighs of the waves, in the words that freeze time, in my memory as I am in yours, in the unbreakable bond of our atoms and the threaded sprinkles of our breath upon the tumbling years. Thank you.
The third category is the Children's Award. This year, the Children's Award goes to Maisa Auda for her book, A Map of Palestine. A Map of Palestine brilliantly blends facts, poetry, and art to share the vibrant and important history and culture of Palestine, with Palestinians whose culture is being erased, and with people like Palestine's teacher that don't know where or what Palestine is, but should. And mostly with young readers who deserve to know. With its end papers commemorating stolen and erased Palestinian villages, its informative back matter, its illustrations that weave Palestinian key and kite symbols into the narrative, its vibrant two-page map of the country itself, all in support of Palestine's story, whose memories keep their country alive. This book burst forth to answer Palestine's question, where is Palestine? It's here in these loving pages. Please welcome Maisa to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I flew a long way to be here from California, and I wrote these words in an Uber, so please bear with me. Some of them I wrote sitting down right there. When I wrote A Map for Palestine in 2021, I hadn't written or published anything before. I'm a healthcare worker, actually. I was not sure how it would reach the kids it needed to reach, or even see the light of day. Being here tonight means I was able to reach my people, and for that, I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you guys for being here. I grew up in a world where I was encouraged to hide my identity, like many of you. That was another world, long ago, before the genocide. In this world, here and now, we don't quiet down or play small. We don't beg for crumbs of acceptance. We are writing a better future, each of us, in our own way. One that's worthy of our precious children. I was a really shy child. Still kind of am. I swallowed my questions about my homeland to protect my parents' feelings. Allah blessed me with my daughter, Malak, who asks questions all day in English, in Arabic, and even in her sleep, believe it or not. This summer, my 6-year-old asked me if the genocide was over. I asked her why she was asking me that. She said because Iran bombed Israel, so now they should know what it feels like to be hurt, and they should stop. I told her, no, I wish that it worked that way, but it didn't. Our kids are watching us and listening, even when we don't think they are. They deserve our answers, no matter how difficult their questions are. They deserve to understand how beautiful our homeland is and why we left it, and to know it's alive and waiting for us still. I hope a map for Palestine can help facilitate this conversation for families. I want to thank my daughter Malak for inspiring this book and for letting me put her artwork in it on page 2. I want to thank my dear friend Sajida for telling me I'm a writer, my agent Sarah for making mine and Alia's dream come true. That's the artist who made these beautiful illustrations. My editor Dana and the whole Macmillan team for trusting my vision and keeping it pure and free of censorship. And thank you to the Arab American Museum for this incredible honor. Thank you all.
We're going to shift genres to poetry. This year, the George Ellenbogen Poetry Award goes to Something About Living by Lina Khalif Tufaha. Something About Living is as perfect a book as can be. Each poem is rendered thoughtfully, tenderly, and with utmost craftsmanship. Through Tufaha's work resists explanation, it is not distant or alienating. Rather, it is rigorous and demanding attention, intimate and inviting. She calls on to her curious readers not just to investigate the stories, histories, and languages she threads throughout her work, but return to the line again and again, arriving as something new each time. Something About Living is a book that truly embodies the Arab American voice of today, reminiscent of and nostalgic for the homeland, yet a manual for survival within empire. In it, Palestine is both metaphor and reality. Lina Khalif Tufaha has a rare talent for writing poems that are as American as they are Palestinian and Arab at large. In her voice, we hear echoes of great classics we admire, and we're called to witness her search for a language adequate enough to describe delicacy amidst violence. The dignity and humanity stolen from Palestinians is alive in poems that speak to Ferguson, Gaza, June Jordan, and to the intersection of our collective liberation. It is a timeless book that we will all keep returning to as a representative of our individual and collective struggles. This is the kind of poetry that makes one want to get out of bed, to step outside, to see tomorrow in anticipation of more beauty and more heartbreak. Please welcome Lina to the stage.
Masal khair. Thank you so much. Thank you is really not a sufficient word, but I don't have a better one just yet. I say this every time I have the immense privilege of being in this space with all of you. You are who I write for. I write for us. And so there is not a recognition that is more moving or more meaningful to me than this one. I want to take just a second. I just came from a conference about June Jordan, so I'm very in touch with my anger. And I want to give you that gift. I want us to acknowledge, because I'm guessing if you're anything like me, you're really angry too. And I just want us to acknowledge and name the redemptive and life-giving anger that we have all been enduring for the past 2 plus 77 plus X, whatever years. Alongside the grief, alongside all of the emotions, I have been thinking a lot about that anger and about holding on to it as a necessary part of our dignity. People who deserve to be free, people who have their full human rights, are and should be enraged at what we are being made to endure, at what our people are being made to endure. And it's hard. It's hard to talk about that. It's hard to sit with that in this country, in this moment. But you have the right to do that. You deserve to do that. You deserve to live in your full humanity. I'll tell you a little secret, which is that originally this book had a different title. I'm very happy with the one it has now, but for a while I thought it was going to be called No One Belongs Here More Than You Do. And the reason that was going to be the title is in 1998, so this will show you how long I can hold a grudge. In 1998, I was flipping through, I think it was Gourmet magazine, like just something benign, and there was a big multi-page advertisement, full color images for tourism in Israel, you know, inviting people to come visit. And I kid you not, the slogan for that ad campaign, you can look this up, was "No one belongs here more than you do." And, you know, I just have lived with that for so long, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So I'm going to just read 2 short poems from a triptych that sits in the heart of this book that works with that language, turns it around, erases it, disappears it, roughs it up, and just reimagines. Erosion. No one belongs here more than you do. No one belongs here more than you do. No one belongs here more than you. No one belongs here more than you. No one belongs here more than one belongs here more. Belongs here more. Belongs here. Belongs here. Belongs here. No. Reclamation Cento. In the mirror of my heart, you can find no shelter. One woman loses 15, maybe 20 members of her family, one garden at a time. I belong to the road and nothing belongs to me. Out here, eyes find the edge that isn't one. I want nothing more from the passing days than the aroma of coffee. Stranger than memory and sadder than sadness. We are all waiting for you, you who have come so far. Do not underestimate this rubble. And a cento, in case you heard anything you thought you recognized, a cento is a poem made from the lines of other poems. And in that poem are many of the poets who I love and return to, including our sister Suhair Hamad and Mahmoud Darwish, among others. I'll just end with a new poem that is not in the book. I was chatting with Sinan before the ceremony began about a kind of obsession many of us have had over the past 2 years, returning to the work of Mahmoud Darwish, and specifically a book called Memory for Forgetting, or Memory for Forgetfulness. There is a translation of that book which is introduced beautifully by Sinan. I urge you to read it if you haven't. And in that book is embedded part of a long poem called في مديح الظل العالي, in praise of the high shadow. And, well, I'll just read you a few short lines from that, and then I'll read you my new poem, which is in conversation with that one. سقط القناع عن القناع عن القناع سقط القناع لا إخوة لك يا أخي لا أصدقاء يا صديقي لا قلاع لا الماء عندك لا الدواء ولا السماء ولا الدماء ولا الشراع ولا الأمام ولا الوراء حاصر حصارك لا مفر. The mask has fallen from the mask. From the mask has fallen. You have no brothers, my brother, no friends, my friend, and no fortresses. You have neither water, nor medicine, nor sky, nor blood, nor sail. You can neither go forward nor go back. Besiege your siege. There is no escape. My poem is entitled Correspondence with Apologies for Mahmoud Darwish. I missed you by a few days. We moved to the city where you were scheduled to read, but your heart had its own timeline. All my life, I have listened to your voice thunder and grieve. I have memorized your words. Unoriginal, I know, given their stature and my heritage, but it was an act of devotion to poetry. When so much of the music I loved, I let go, yours stayed. It's a song I'd hum to myself between wars. Lately, I walk around with a poem of yours I did not memorize in childhood, coursing through my veins. No water, no sky, no medicine, no friends and no fortresses, no sail. The sail always catches in my throat. They say you drafted it on one of those boats carrying fighters into the unknown. The lore always imagines it heightens the tragedy. It's good you are not here. So many of us have been whispering this bitterness to loved ones who passed before the genocide began. This time we outdid ourselves, left our Romans in the dust. This time, there were no masks to fall. Thank you all so much.
Hello. So if you have spoken with me, know me, or have looked at me, you might notice I am about 8.5 months pregnant. So I'm going to humbly and graciously use that as the reason for us to jump back to Children's Award for a second. If you've ever been pregnant, you know pregnancy brain is real, and it happened to me. So let's jump back for a second to the Children's Award. We have a wonderful, wonderful honorable mention to honor tonight. The judges for this category awarded an honorable mention to Rafik Ibad for her book Kamalski. Please join me in welcoming Rafik to the stage with a very loud round of applause, please.
I was totally okay with that. I was hoping I wouldn't have to talk. Thank you guys so much. It's really my honor for anybody who reads my books. I always feel so connected when I hear back from people who resonated with my words. So I just want to read to you guys from my author's note, and that'll help explain a little bit behind the inspiration behind Kamalski. As a Palestinian living in diaspora, I've always been fascinated by resistance art and the profound role it has played in our history. Palestinian art is rich with powerful symbols that express our culture, our experiences, our emotions, our messages, and our hopes. One simple drawing can effectively portray what 1,000 words cannot. For Palestinians, the key has become an iconic symbol in our pursuit of justice for the right to return to our homes and our homeland. Kamal's key doesn't just represent one moment in history. It is the story of every single Palestinian family spanning generations. It is a story about overcoming loss, even when the circumstances feel hopeless. It is a story about how to be a Palestinian in this world. May you be like Kamal's key, resilient and adaptable to whatever comes your way, while never losing your essence and purpose in this world. Thank you.
Within the poetry category, we have an honorable mention, Siwar Masanat, for her poetry book Q. Siwar was unable to join us this year, unfortunately, but has sent a video to accept her award.
Marhaba. My name is Siwar Masannat. It would have been so wonderful to spend time with my literary kin and to meet the writers and the staff of the Arab American National Museum, to meet all of the people whose work in nurturing and creating Arab American culture I so admire. This recognition is the most meaningful honor I've received for my poems, and I am so grateful to the museum and the judging panel. What a delight to have Q listed alongside Lina Khalaf Tufaha's brilliant Something About Living, a book that I absolutely cherish. Congratulations to all of the awardees. All of my gratitude also to my family, blood and chosen, who show me how to try to move with care in this world. Thank you. Now I will read one poem from Q. Spellbound when we spoke at all, we spoke in code. Mouthed out, pomegranates broken, seeds snapping out of the gates of our yellowing teeth. Our shadows each grew plump in longing. We befriended them and ourselves. If we simmered in hostile light, we no longer flinched, nor threw suspicion back against walls to see what sticks or grips. We spilled our fates into round, mouthed soil beds. A moment dragging out of its belly an age before us. A history waiting to be plucked clean like tender lamb's meat, falling off a broken bone. Shukran.
The last award of the night is the Anan Ameri Lifetime Achievement Award. As has been the theme all night, the Lifetime Achievement Award recognizes the exceptional body of work by an individual or organization and their contributions. Sorry. And their contributions towards advancing the field of Arab American writing and letters. To introduce this year's awardee, please welcome the director of the Arab American National Museum, Dr. Diana Abari.
Hello, everybody. It's my great pleasure and honor to present the Anan Ameri Lifetime Achievement Award to Sinan Antoon. There are so many ways to describe who Sinan Antoon is and what he does. He is a novelist, a poet, a scholar, and a professor, a translator of both poetry and prose, a commentator on politics and current affairs, a cultural critic, and a documentary filmmaker. To me, the word that embodies who Sinan is wordsmith. His pen is his instrument, and with it he unleashes cascades of beautifully crafted poetry, fiction, and essays in both English and Arabic. And yes, he's one of those rare people who is equally eloquent in both languages. Born and raised in Baghdad, Iraq, the son of an Iraqi father and an American mother, he moved to the United States after the first Gulf War in 1991 and has lived here ever since. Sinan is the chronicler of the late 20th and early 21st century Iraqi experience and has been described as one of the most acclaimed authors of the Arab world. He is a master of storytelling, with many of his novels unfolding in his beloved Baghdad, addressing the themes of war, memory, grief, or exile. His characters and stories bring into relief the cultural complexity and richness of Iraqi society. His first novel, I'jam, an Iraqi Rhapsody, gave us a glimpse into life under Saddam Hussein's dictatorship. His third novel, The Baghdad Eucharist, was a finalist for the International Prize for Arabic Fiction in 2013. His acclaimed masterpiece, The Corpse Washer, winner of the Saif Khubash Benipal Prize and the Arab American Book Award in 2014, is a profound meditation on mortality and resilience in a country scarred by war. In the Book of Collateral Damage, he transforms the cataloging of destruction into an act of resistance, reminding us that memory itself is a form of justice. As a poet, Sinan distills grief and hope into language with rare precision. Reflecting on the passage of 20 years since the US invasion of Iraq, he wrote in The Guardian in 2023 how, quote, "Poetry was my refuge and the only space through which I could translate the visceral pain of watching the violence visited on Iraq and seeing my hometown fall to an occupying army," end quote. Collections like the Baghdad Blues and postcards from the underworld speak to the fragility of life and endurance of beauty. As an interlocutor between Arabic and English literatures, his translation work has also earned him great acclaim, receiving the National Translation Award in 2012 for his translation of Mahmoud Darwish's In the Presence of Absence. His translation of Ibtisam Azam's brilliant novel, The Book of Disappearance, was longlisted for the International Booker Award this year. I could go on and on about Sinan's accomplishments and achievements, his piercing commentaries and criticisms of the American imperialist project in the Middle East, or about his erudite scholarship on classical Arabic poetry, but I know you are eager to hear from the man himself. I do want to say on top of all this, all his achievements and accomplishments, which are many, Sinan is not only someone I admire and deeply respect, but he's also one of the kindest and definitely the funniest person I know. I am proud to call Sinan my friend, and so please join me in welcoming my friend Sinan Antoon to receive the Anan Ameri Lifetime Achievement Award.
What about the check? Thank you so much, Diana, for that wonderful, generous introduction. I am proud to call you a friend. And thank you so much for the prize. It's a great honor and pleasure to receive it. It is particularly meaningful and heartwarming to be recognized by one's own community and people. It's a homemade prize. And thank you to Dr. Anan Ameri. I told you I met you back in 1994 when I was living in DC. When I got the prize, a friend was concerned and emailed me and said, "What, did you die? Why did they give you a Lifetime Achievement Award?" Another one said, "What, did you stop writing or what?" I hope not. Quoting Gramsci, Edward Said wrote that, quote, "History deposits in us our own history, our family's history, our nation's history, our tradition's history, which has left in us an infinity of traces, all kinds of marks." And this is an occasion for me to acknowledge some of those traces. I want to thank my companion and my first reader, Ibtisam Azam, for her unconditional love and support she gives me every day. I'm fortunate to have her in my life. My late mother passed away a long time ago, but she would have been happy today. She was the one who bought books for us to read growing up. I also want to thank my brother and his family, my brother who is here. He too later bought home books and encouraged me to write. Maybe he forgot, but in 1991, in a basement in Baghdad during the intense bombing of the United States, he told me, quote, "Make sure to write about what we are going through." And I did. Wars and their aftermath have been a common thread in most of my writing. After the 1991 war, throngs of Iraqis left Iraq, and hundreds of thousands fled the horror of the economic sanctions imposed by the United States that followed throughout the 1990s. Wars don't always end for civilians, I contend. They go on and are still ongoing in various visceral ways, whether in the lethal effects on civilians' bodies and the bodies of their loved ones who lie in graves, or in the scars on their own bodies and their psyches, in the destruction of their homes and cities and of their social spaces and social fabric, in the obliteration of infrastructure and institutions that took decades to build.
in the toxicity delivered by smart weapons in the environment and deposited for thousands of years to come, and in the genes of unborn humans, I am referring in this last sentence, in particular, to the use of depleted uranium in Iraq in 1991 and later in 2003 in Fallujah. And what I said, of course, applies so well to Gaza in terms of destruction. You all know that. A few days before the Israeli ground invasion of Gaza started, the United States dispatched Marine Corps Lieutenant General James Glynn to, quote, advise Israel on how to mitigate civilian casualties in Gaza. Glynn oversaw the US battles in Fallujah during the occupation of Iraq in 2004, the most brutal battles of all. And you know what happened to mitigating the civilian casualties. Writing is a subjective act, for sure. Literary texts are born in solitude, but they always spring from and eventually pour into a shared and collective space of reading, where the individual is in confluence with the collective, irrespective of the author's desires or intentions. Once a text is published and read by others, it becomes a public act with consequences. It narrates a world and implots histories and will inscribe meanings that will be in conversation with other narratives, echoing, questioning, disrupting, disturbing, and contesting them. Divorcing a text from its political context is itself a political act. This I learned from my ancestors, my literary ancestors, those poets, novelists, and intellectuals whose work and words shaped mine and illuminated my path. Some of whose words I had the pleasure of translating from Arabic. I would like to share some of them with you this evening. And by the way, for those of you who have been to this museum and gone to the third floor, you know that Arabic is not a newcomer to this continent. A man by the name of Zammuri from Morocco, who was enslaved and brought to this continent, spoke it 500 years ago. One of my favorite poets who I've been translating and working on for a while is Sargon Bolus, who came from Iraq and lived in California for most of his life, and wrote a lot about what it means to live here, but also what it means to live in the United States as it was bombing his home country. The poem is called The Child of War, and the dedication is to an Iraqi child who was born during the war and died in it. The child came, the one missing in the war. She stands at the end of the hallway, a candle in her hand. I see her whenever I wake up from sleep. At the first hour of dawn, she waits for my collision with the wall of reality. Her eyes are vast because of the horror of wisdom. They are patient in the hill's thorns, where my thoughts look around at night. My hands, which could break her chains, my voice, which might pose questions. To the murderer or to the God. Whose answers she knows. How long has this war gone on, child? How many nights at the bottom of which well? What eternity of pain coming from all directions? What would the four-star general have done had they deprived his child of her milk for one day? The child says, and as Lena said, many of us have been going back to the poetry of Mahmoud Darwish in the last 2 years and other Palestinian poets and writers who are not with us, and I've been translating more and more of his work. And I want to read one poem that was written a long time ago, but it could have been written in these last 2 years. Earth is narrowing around us. Earth is narrowing around us, forcing us into the last passage. So we take off our body parts to pass through. Earth is squeezing us. If only we were its wheat to die and live again. If only she were our mother to have mercy upon us. If only we were images of the rocks our dream will carry as mirrors. We saw the faces of those the last of us will kill in the final defense of our soul. We cried for their children's bread. We saw the faces of those who will throw our children out of the windows of this last space. Mirrors our star will polish. Where do we go after the last borders? Where do birds fly after the last sky? Where do plants sleep after the last air? We will write our names in crimson mists. We will sever the anthem's hand. Our flesh will finish it. We will die here, here in this last passage, here or here. Our blood will plant its olive trees. One of the most memorable and quoted lines from one of my favorite poets, Abu al-Ala al-Ma'arri, says, خفف الوطأ فما أظن أديم الأرض إلا من هذه الأجساد. Tread lightly, for the soil of this earth is made of these bodies. Much of the privilege and wealth of the world we inhabit is premised on and is the product of the pain, sweat, and blood of others, past and present. Acknowledging that and remembering it is crucial. We should all tread lightly, especially on this continent. The bodies in the poem are real and not merely metaphorical. Bodies enslaved, exploited, incarcerated, deported, and decimated, ever more efficiently from a safe distance thanks to advanced knowledge, or up close, bodies no longer living but whose ghosts and legacies continue to haunt us. I want to end with a poem I wrote in December 24, when I read that Gaza has the largest number of amputees in the entire world, which is, like so many of the information and the reports we get, is something we should pause before. Limbs, it's called limbs. Humans are not trees. Their limbs don't grow back. But what happens to amputated limbs? Are they kept in jars to wait patiently for the right of return to bodies? But there is no formaldehyde in Gaza. Are they thrown into the trash? Or do they congregate somewhere? Do children's legs keep running to flee the bombing? Will they be allowed to compete in the next Paralympics? Do hands punch the sky forever? Or do they pray? Are some buried somewhere so amputees, if they survive, can visit? And when they die, will their ghosts be amputated too? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. As ever, it is my honor to be your MC. I would like to ask all awardees to please stand up, collect your belongings. Yep, stand up, awardees, yeah, front row, there we go, thank you. And we're gonna head upstairs so you can get ready for the book signing. And everyone else, can we please show our love and appreciation with a round of applause? Louder, louder. Thank you, everyone. Let's head upstairs, please. Everybody else in the audience, let's hold on a second. We're gonna let our awardees head upstairs and get settled so that they're ready to sign books. Okay. I encourage you to purchase and to support the work of each of our featured artists. In addition to the awardees, we have Riwa Zainati signing her poetry chapbook Difficult upstairs as well tonight. And please, please, please join us next year when we celebrate 20 years of the Arab American Book Awards. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful night.